Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Segastro. I'm going to be your host for this evening. This is the first part of our little series of Fantasy Football Addicts Anonymous. This is week one, first episode. I had a whole mad funny skit set up yesterday, and everything got messed up because I didn't really know what I was doing. So now I know. Hopefully we don't lose it this time. And let's get into it. I'm going to start off by breaking down week number one, and then I'm going to talk about week two, and I'm going to talk about some other things in regards to our league. Alright, so I don't want to hear people say that the message board is whack. That means you must go. And you, Mr. Peach. Underrated Peach. Let's get into the results from week number one. Alright, first off we have Magical Fantasies, which is coached by Michael Granis, taking on Nicky's Mets. Nick has never made the playoffs in our league. The only team that has been in the league since the inception of the league, to never make the playoffs. And this year, I think Nicky's Mets has a really good team and he has a really good shot at it. So let's break down the game. Mike won 85-83, as I said. Took a risky start in Colt McCoy. With Peyton Manning's injury, he had to do it. Charles played okay. He got him 7 points. Ben Tate 13, so I don't think Foster missed much there. Wallace, Mike Williams also with 9 solid starts. The effects of Peyton Manning's injury also affected him in another way, with Dallas Clark getting him only 2 points. Cedric Benson with 16. I wonder if Mr. Musco would like him back now. Kid was dying to give him away at the draft. Jason Hanson was a good start, and Bucks D with 7. Grinders bench only posted 18, not very good. But regardless, he still won the game. Mets got 17 out of Romo. Good looks, Mr. Romo, for throwing that pick to Rivas at the end of the game and trying to dive in the end zone like a moron. Forte posted 16 points, a solid start. Total yards, very good. And that 56-yard touchdown was pretty nice. Gore only posted 4, but we know he's going to do better. Julio Jones, slow start, 4 points, but 71 yards is a lot from a rookie. He's going to do very well this year. Hakeem Nicks got hurt, but posted 10 points. It's solid. Kellen Winslow, only 4 points from the tight end. And your lucky BG got the touchdown. Basically gave you 6 points in Jets D. In our league, defenses go very high for points. Got you 14. On the bench, you posted 64 points. Pretty good. Like I said, Nicky's Mets, this could be a year. Just don't screw it up. Pay attention to your team. You got a shot to make the playoffs. All right, next up. Has to be the most disappointing loss of the week. Let me take my White Castle. Vanilla Shake. All right, it's good shit. Yeah, next game was kind of disappointing for Bender and Justin's team. Only posted 77 points, losing to Scott 79-73. He lost because of Nate Kading, posting 0 points. Unbelievable. I can't believe it. Kid loses by 2 points because his field goal kicker gets hurt on the kickoff. Typical luck for Bender and Justin. Bender's had some bad luck in the past. Let's see how the game broke down. Drew Brees had 27 points. Excellent start. He lit up the Packers on Thursday night. Peyton Hillis posted 5. Brandon Jacobs with 1. Calvin Johnson with 17. Macklin and Mercedes Lewis only 1. Kind of disappointing. Fred Jackson 9. And Eagles D with 16. So if Macklin and Lewis and Kading would have played, we would have had a better game. From Scott, like I said, Mike Vick had 17 points. Posted a nice solid game. Beanie Wells with 12. D'Angelo Williams with 2. What up, Mike? Food's over there. You got the cheeseburgers with the onions and stuff on them. I got the plain ones. All right. Andre Johnson with 12. Reggie Wayne with 15. Tony Gonzalez 4. Joseph Adai 2. Matt Bryant 7. Chargers 8. Pretty solid out of your bench. 26 points out of Steve Smith. Looks like you're going to start him this week from what I see from your lineup. And basically, Scott's team is going to rely heavily on how his running backs do. If 2 out of 3 of those guys hit, Beanie Wells, D'Angelo Williams, and Joseph Adai, he'll be all right until he picks somebody up. And that could happen. Binder has a solid team also. A lot of people hated on the Calvin Johnson trade for the second-round pick. Meanwhile, the guy got 2 touchdowns. Better than what most of your guys did. The Michael Vick trade seemed to have worked so far in Scott's favor, as Foster and Peyton Manning have been hurt in Granis's favor. He did win, and he's still one of the best teams, but I believe it's worked out in Scott's favor so far. Next up, we have Challenge Swords versus Underrated Peach. Short John's tuning in and is very happy that he won on Monday night. Peach is very sad because he lost in 2 leagues because of Tom Brady. Unbelievable. I've never seen something like that in my life. The kid Peach has a great team always, mad depth, and somehow he always seems to get shit on by D'Angelo Williams and my brother 2 years ago in the playoffs, 3, whatever it was now. Tom Brady, he always seems to get blown up on those big games. Challenge Shorts, John, you pulled it out. Tip my hat that I'm not wearing, but I would tip it to you if I had one on right now. Tom Brady posted 34 points, second highest ever in our league for a quarterback. Pretty amazing. And McCoy protected 23. So anyone doubting Bungay not protecting Mendenhall, not protecting Frank Gore, there's your results right there. He posted 57 points out of his 2 protectors. That's higher than what Musco put up as a team. So that's pretty amazing. The rest of his guys not so great. Not trading you Tolbert, no matter how many times you ask me. Probably ask me again after this video. It's not going to happen. But we got Peach up next. He had a solid week out of Stafford. Kind of disappointing week out of Blunt. It's because they were trailing most of the game. You asked me why. What happened to Blunt? Is he hurt? He said no. At least not to my knowledge. And he wasn't. They were passing most of the game. He's not really good at pass protection, the coach said. But look for him to get involved more this week. Steven Jackson posted a solid game until he got hurt. And actually, just got breaking news. Musco has made a trade with Matt Peach. He is going to trade Peach his waiver wire pick, for Deloney Carter. So you heard it here first, breaking news. The waiver wire pick has been swapped for Deloney Carter. Yep. And next up we have Greg Jennings and Stevie Johnson, who posted solid games. Owen Daniels, a crappy game. And Hightower posted a solid game. Ravens D posted a solid game. Rodas posted a terrible game. Peach's bench with 56. So Peach, it's hopefully not an up and down year for you. Still lost 11 games in a row. He is one shy from tying the all-time record of games in a row lost, which is held by Mike Granis from his first season, which he lost 12 games in a row. So, I don't know. We'll see if he does it. Next up, we have Musco, who's now called to back in your mouth instead of Pills for Picks. I thought Pills for Picks was very funny. And he took on Fulcher, a.k.a. Moose, who took over Matt Stroman's team. Shout out to Matt Stroman, wherever you are. Heard you still think you're in the league. It's pretty good. Good luck with that. And you seem to have Musco's number. Whoever is running this team always seems to beat him. One of the few teams that consistently do it. Musco got a good start out of Sanchez, but looked to be a little shaky at first. The rest of his guys kind of underperformed. Chris Johnson and Turner, not so great starts. Colston got injured. I told you he was going to get injured. Didn't want to believe me. You said I was a jinx and stay away from your players. Pretty funny. We have Vernon Davis up next. Okay game. Ryan Grant, same thing. Looks like James Starks might be taking that role, but the Packers barely rush as it is anyway. Schweischem, not a lot of points. It was a blowout. Patriots D gave up a lot of yards, but they looked improved on Monday night. As far as Fulcher team goes, biggest upset of the week. I was really surprised about this game. A lot of things, this team could be good. Out of nowhere. Schwab didn't play that great. Jones-Drew played, adequate. Moreno played horrible and he got injured. Deion Branch played amazing. I mean, everyone made fun of Matt for him being his second wide receiver, but it looks like Tom Brady trusts him and doesn't really trust Ocho Cinco, so that could be a good second wide receiver. And obviously, Deshaun Jackson played excellent, along with Jason Witten. Surprise here was James Jones only getting 1 yard. It was a risky start compared to some of the other guys on his bench, but 500 yards in the game, and James Jones only get 1 yard. Come on, man, that's horrible. Jim Rocker is solid. Bears defense looked amazing in that game. Really one of the surprise teams. So congratulations to Fulcher. Welcome to the league. Hope you enjoy it. All right, next up we have the Seductive Ducks versus Pay Me Now. My brother's team, really, he feels like he's getting disrespected. I feel like he has one of the best teams also, whatever you want to make fun of me just saying it's because it's my brother, but the team's pretty solid. Phillip Rivers posted 18, Ray Rice 23. Another one of Granis' trades that could go either way. It looks right now that Mikey had the better of the deal. Jonathan Stewart only posting 1. I told you, Mikey, not to start him. Shaking my head as he eats his mozzarella sticks in the background. Percy Harvin had the kickoff return that brought back to the house for 7 points. Roddy White with 4 yards. Antonio Gates with 4 yards. I expect both of those players to contribute more to his team as the season progresses. They'll have better stats when he needs them to, which is kind of good. That's the way I look at it. Javid Best had 6 points, pretty solid. John Casey with 10. Packers defense with 10. Pretty solid overall. Nice game. Mark made it close with Wes Walker on Monday night, posting 25 points. But other than that, the rest of his team was really mediocre at best. Matt Ryan, 10. Bradshaw, 8. Mendenhall, disappointing 1. Fitzgerald, disappointing 4. Heap, 2. Vincent Jackson, 2. Goskowski, 7. And Cowboys, 6. Hold on one second. I have a telephone call. It's from Al. From my boy Al. Yo, what up, kid? Yo, what up? You hear me? Yo, you hear me? Not much. You can come by whenever you want. Yeah. Alright. All right, you got it, man. All right, peace. As you can see, this is live. I'm waiting for my boy Al to stop by. All right, next up. Last but not least, in the recap of Week 1, we have my team taking on Jimmy's team. Posted 91 points, the highest points in the league. Jimmy posted 83. Disappointing for him that he played against my team this week. Posting 83, you should beat anyone the way that the league worked out. I had some really good starts out of Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tolbert, 23 points, and Brandon Marshall, 11. Ingram was disappointing, and Manningham was disappointing with 3. Jimmy Graham and Peterson, pretty solid. Peterson a little disappointing for his standard, and Alex Henry solid. Saints D. Luckily they had the touchdown, otherwise it would have been garbage for me. Jimmy had nice starts out of Freeman. Sean Green really cost him the game, in my opinion. If he would have posted the stats that he should have posted, and if the Jets weren't getting blitzed as crazy as they were, it would have been a better game out of him. Felix Jones, solid 7. Bolden, Des Bryant, Rob Gronkowski, McFadden, Janikowski with that crazy 63-yard field goal. All amazing starts. And Giants D with 5. So Jimmy's got a really good team. He's going to be a team to be reckoned with as we move along to week number 2. I'm going to get into the matchups quickly and give you my predictions live on the spot. I haven't even looked at it yet. So you're seeing it here live, first time. First, right now, we have Jimmy's team, as I was just speaking of, playing against Mark's team. Excuse me. CBS has it at a tie at 83-83. We have Josh Freeman versus Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's going to try to answer back versus the Eagles and Mike Vick coming home, NBC Sunday night. You guys are more than welcome to stop by my house, watch the game if you like. CBS has Freeman as the favorite. I don't really know. I guess I would have to lean towards Freeman here because the Eagles' defensive backs are so strong. Jimmy has Felix Jones and Sean Green. Jones is against San Francisco. Sean Green, I think, will bounce back versus Jacksonville. Mendenhall versus Seattle should destroy them. Bradshaw versus St. Louis, like that matchup there also. I'm going to have to give the 2 running back edge to Mark. The wide receivers, we have Anquan Bolden versus Tennessee and Des Bryant versus San Francisco. Des looked like a beast last week. Amazing. Looks like the next Michael Irvin. Then on the other side, we have Fitzgerald versus Washington and Wes Walker versus San Diego. Once again, going to have to lean in Mark's favor. We have Rob Gronkowski versus Todd Heap. I'm not even going to get into the matchups. Gronkowski obviously is the better player. And McFadden versus Buffalo and Vincent Jackson versus New England. I'm going to give it to Darren McFadden here. And last, we have the kicker, Sebastian Janikowski versus Buffalo versus Steven Gostkowski. Going to go with... this is tough. I'm going to go with Gostkowski, even though Janikowski had the crazy field goal, because you would expect Gostkowski to kick more field goals. I know that sounds crazy considering how dominant the Patriots' offense looked the other day. But, yeah, I expect the Raiders to beat up on Buffalo, even though they got off to a hot start. And as far as defenses go, Cowboys versus San Francisco, Giants versus St. Louis, it's kind of even. The Giants obviously are a better defense, but with all the injuries, a lot of question marks there. So, if I had to guess, I say it is a pretty close game, like CBS says, but I'm going to give the prediction to Jimmy based on his running back advantage. Next up, we have Nicky's Mets versus Matt Peach. Nicky's Mets has 81 predicted by CBS, where Matt Peach has 72. Obviously, they swapped the waiver wire pick without talking to anyone. I would assume who the waiver wire pick would be, and we all have a good idea who it will be, giving a little clue. He has Steven Jackson on his team. Wink, wink. First off, we have Tony Romo versus San Francisco versus Matt Stafford versus Kansas City. I'm going to give it to Stafford here. I know the guy's an injury risk, and Romo's great, but the way Kansas City's defense looked last week against Buffalo, they're going to have their hands full versus a Detroit Lions offense that looked pretty dominant. Next up, we have Forte versus Frank Gore versus LeGarrette Blount and Steven Jackson, who obviously will be taken out of the lineup. LeGarrette Blount will bounce back this week. It'll be a closer game versus Minnesota, more running, more ball control. So I like him there. But Forte versus New Orleans, I could see them being down and more in a passing situation, which will probably benefit Forte more. And Frank Gore obviously is a better start than who Peach will pick up. So I like Gore there. As far as wide receivers go, we have a banged up Hakeem Nicks versus Jennings against Carolina, and Julio Jones versus Stevie Johnson. Going to have to give the edge here to Matt Peach. Jennings and Stevie Johnson, look a little solid. Jones, we don't know too much about what he's going to do on Sunday night. And Hakeem Nicks is a little injured, but I had him last year. He was injured the whole season. He plays through it. He's a tough guy. As far as tight ends goes, Aaron Hernandez looked pretty good versus Owen Daniels, who was a bit disappointing. I'm gonna have to give the edge here to Owen Daniels. Even though he had a horrible week last week, we saw the way that Miami could not contain the Patriots' tight ends. This could be a problem. You know, the linebackers seem to blitz a lot. It's an aggressive defense. I like Owen Daniels there. All right, next up we have BGE, the Human Law Firm, versus Tim Hightower, and Jarvis versus San Diego, and Tim Hightower versus Arizona. I'm going to give the edge here to Hightower. While BGE usually looks good, Hightower's going to want some revenge on his own team. He felt that he didn't get the ball enough there, and he was overlooked, you know? And I think that the coach Shanahan's got his tricks up his sleeve with Hightower. I like him this week. Carpenter versus Houston should be a high-scoring game. Not much defense, and Rob Baronis versus Baltimore. Could see Baltimore holding them to a lot of field goals. I'm going to give the edge there to Carpenter. As far as defenses go, Mets has Jets, and Peach has Ravens. Like the Jets here versus Jacksonville. Call me a homer if you want, but Jacksonville sucks. Let's be realistic. The Ravens playing Tennessee. They also suck, but I don't know. I feel like the Jets, they will get a defensive touchdown, and that will be the separation between the two teams. Mets has a great team, and even though CBS predicts them to win, I'm going to have to go with Matt Peach this week. They'll probably be a team that somehow blows it, but that's just because of his luck. All right, next up we have Fulcher versus Binder, two surprise teams. Both predicted to have 68 points by CBS. Now let's see how it breaks down. Fulcher has Matt Schwab versus Miami. And Binder and Justin have Drew Brees versus Chicago. Chicago's a great defense, but I'm still going to have to go with Drew Brees here. Right, Fulcher has MJD versus the Jets, and we have Peyton Hillis versus the Colts. I'm going to give Hillis the advantage here. I know, obviously, Jones-Drew's the better player, but if the Browns are going to win, which is very possible, without Peyton Manning on the Colts, they're going to have to run the ball and keep that Indianapolis offense off the field. Next up, we have Moreno, who got injured last week. Status is day-to-day. Versus Brandon Jacobs versus St. Louis, who really didn't have a lot of carries last week. Was kind of disappointed in him. I expected a bigger game out of him. With the injury, I'm going to have to lean towards Jacobs also. Next up, as far as wide receivers go, we have Deshaun Jackson versus Atlanta in the Dome, like Deshaun on turf. Fast player, one of the fastest. And Deion Branch versus San Diego. And we also have Calvin Johnson and Jeremy Maclin. Calvin Johnson's a beast. Eric Berry's out, so look for them to take advantage of that. Some deep shots down the field. They still have Flowers, who is one of the best cover cornerbacks in the NFL. Look it up if you don't believe me. Jeremy Maclin will be involved more. He played every single snap last week. Didn't get a lot of targets. The coach said he's going to ease him back into it, but he should have a better week. I'm going to give the wide receiver edge to my boy Bender and Justin. Tight end goes, we have Jason Witten versus Lewis. Lewis got a little banged up. I think Witten's one of the best tight ends in the game. Going to give the advantage there to Fulcher. And last but not least, flex position, Fred Jackson versus James Jones. Obviously, we got into James Jones a little earlier. I'm going to have to say Fred Jackson has the advantage versus Oakland. Kickers, we have Neil Rackers versus Nate Kading. Obviously, Kading's out for the year. I'm sure they will put in a claim for a kicker. And Rackers is one of the better kickers on one of the best offenses in the league. Bears defense versus New Orleans probably get neutralized by the fact that New Orleans is one of the best offenses in the game versus Eagles versus Atlanta. It's a Sunday night game. Like the Eagles defense there. I'm going to have to give the advantage overall to Justin and Binder, and I think they get on the right track. As you can see in the background, I built a wall this weekend. It's a very nice wall. I'm proud of myself. Becoming more handy. Consumed much of my weekend. It's what I was doing. Let me take a sip. All right, next up, we have Colt McCoy versus the Colts and Tom Brady on the San Diego Chargers. My bad, I forgot to say what teams are which. We have Shalyn Shorts, John Bungay, Swords, I can't talk right now for some reason, and Magical Fantasies, Michael Granis. Excellent game for first place, two undefeated teams in the Gennaro's division. Always a rivalry game. I expect some smack talk going up on the boards for this game. And we'll find out if I pick against John like I usually do. All right, Colt McCoy versus Brady. Obviously, Brady has the advantage no matter who he's playing against. Jamal Charles versus Detroit and LaShawn McCoy versus Atlanta. It's a tough call, but I like McCoy better because of Detroit's interior defensive line. Ben Tate probably going to be Aaron Foster. It looks like he's going to start this week versus Ryan Matthews. I'm going to have to go with Foster there for obvious reasons. Excuse me. Mike Wallace versus Seattle versus Holmes versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville's secondary is a mess, but Mike Wallace, he didn't have a great week last week, but that was because Baltimore's more of a physical defense. Seattle's a joke. Wallace should have a big day. They're going to look deep down the field to him. Mike Williams versus Minnesota should be solid, and Dwayne Bowe versus Detroit. I like Williams there, so I'm going to give the advantage to Grandis. Dallas Clark had a horrible week last week versus Cleveland. Look for him to be more involved versus Jeremichael. Finley versus Carolina. Like Finley in that regard. Jeff King kind of torched the Carolina Panthers last week. Cedric Benson versus Denver versus C.J. Spiller versus Oakland. I like Benson. Can't believe I'm saying that better. And Jason Hanson versus Kansas City versus Mason Crosby versus Carolina. I'm going to have to go with Crosby here based on the fact that Green Bay is going to post a lot of points versus this team. And last but not least, we have the defense of the Steelers, who are probably real angry at the way that they got exploited last week by the Ravens, who are put in such short field position by turnovers. And it made it really difficult for the Steelers. When I watched the game, it was kind of crazy how many turnovers that the Baltimore Ravens were getting. About 7, I believe, if I'm correct. And Buccaneers' defense is really not that good. So, believe it or not, I'm going to go with John Bungay. So, that probably means you're going to lose, because every time I pick you to win, you lose. And it's not because Grandis has a whack team. It's just, Bungay has better matchups, I feel. All right, next up we have Scott Island versus Mus Daddy. Usually some smack talk involving Dustin Keller and Larry Fitzgerald involved in this game. We have Musco starting off with Mark Sanchez as, his quarterback versus Jacksonville. Pretty solid start, but Mike Vick is going to be, in my opinion, the start of the week. He's playing against Atlanta, his former team, and he's going to post solid numbers, coming back home. Turner versus Philadelphia should be okay there, and Beanie Wells is playing against Washington, should be solid there also. Chris Johnson versus Baltimore should be tough, but he missed the whole preseason. That's why he started off so slowly last week. I think he'll do a little bit better this week. And Joseph Adai versus Cleveland. Not a big fan of Adai. Going to have to go Chris Johnson here. Miles Austin versus San Francisco. And Brandon Lloyd versus Cincinnati. Lloyd was a little banged up last week. Versus Andre Johnson versus Miami. And Reggie Wayne versus Cleveland. This is a close one, but I'm going to lean in favor of Scott for this. Tight ends. Vernon Davis versus Dallas, and Tony Gonzalez versus Philadelphia. Going to go with Vernon Davis on this one. And flex positions, Steve Smith, Green Bay versus Ryan Grant, Carolina. It's going to be close, but I'm going to go with Ryan Grant. Cam Newton, I know, got off to a really great start, but I know they're going to be passing a lot, but I don't know. I still trust Ryan Grant to do better. I'll probably get a sneaky fantasy touchdown. Either way, they're not great options, both of them. Let's be realistic. Sean Sweesham versus Seattle should post up solid numbers. Matt Bryan at Dome sounds pretty good versus Philadelphia. That defense might hold them to field goals. I'll probably go with Bryant there. And Patriots defense versus San Diego versus Patriots defense. It's tough, I don't think either of these defenses are that great. Not a lot of turnovers are going to be made in this game, or fumbles or anything like that, and they're both going to give up a lot of yards and points. So it's a draw out of them. So, quickly, let me just look over what I said. Alright, I am going to give the advantage here to Scott, just basically off of Mike Vick. I think Musco beats him in pretty much everything else, but I think Mike Vick is going to be that good. And last but not least, that leaves my game versus my brother. CBS predicts me to have 82 points versus my brother with 81. It's going to be a lot of smack talk in my house this week as we square off, as it usually is. Alright, Aaron Rodgers is predicted to have 19 points versus Philip Rivers versus the Patriots. This is going to be close. I mean, they're both great starts. You can't really say one is better than the other one. Obviously, I would have to say I like Rodgers better, but that's my dude, Tolbert was a little banged up last week playing against New England. Not the best start. He's not going to have 3 touchdowns again. Ray Rice versus Tennessee, I like that a lot better. Vontae Leach clearing the way. Looks pretty good right now as a start. Ingram versus Chicago. I think this will be a better game for Ingram. I was pretty confident how the coaches gave him the last play at the 1-yard line to try to get a touchdown. I know it didn't really work out for him, but I was pretty happy about that. Javid Best versus Kansas City. He should probably post solid numbers. And I don't know. It's pretty close, but I'll give it a Javid Best. Brandon Marshall versus Houston. I think he's going to abuse them. I think the old Brandon Marshall's back. And Roddy White versus Philadelphia. It's going to be tough for Roddy. He's probably going to see a lot of double teams. And we'll just see. We'll see what's really good with this Philadelphia defense. I think I would still have to give the edge to Roddy White, even though Brandon Marshall has the good matchup. But Roddy White's one of the best wide receivers in the game. I like Manningham over Percy Harvin because Nix is a little banged up. He might not play. If that's the case, look for Dominic Hickson to step into Hakeem Nix's role. Might be someone you would like to pick up. So I'm giving you guys some free fantasy advice out there if you want to pick up a wide receiver. At tight end, I have Jimmy Graham, who a lot of people compare my brother's tight end that he has too, which is Antonio Gates. I'm going to go with Gates here. It's a tough matchup with New England. But, Jimmy Graham is more of a boom or bust play. If he doesn't score a touchdown, he's not that great, whereas Gates always gets the yards. He's the best tight end, maybe ever. Next up, we have Adrian Peterson versus Pierre Thomas. Peterson's a much better start, in my opinion. Next up, we have Alex Henry versus Atlanta versus John Casey versus Chicago. I have John Casey in another league. He makes me real nervous. Every time he kicks a field goal, I think this guy's going to miss, even if it's 20 yards. As most Jets fans know, kind of similar to Nick Folk, if you get what I'm saying. No, Alex Henry's only a rookie, but I'm going to give the edge to him. He's in a dome. John Casey's on the road in Chicago. Doesn't have a real strong leg. Not the best starts in the world. And as far as defenses goes, my brother has the advantage with the Packers playing the Panthers. Look for Cam Newton to, as a rookie, throw a pick six or something like that. Versus the Saints, who take on Chicago. And, color's always a liability to do that, but I just would prefer the Packers. So overall, I'm gonna have to give the edge to my brother this week. I'm picking against myself. It's a good game though. I think it'll be the closest of the games this week. Hold on, I just got a text. Okay, no doubt from my boy Al, probably the shottest kid in the world if you're familiar with him. All right, so that pretty much concludes the predictions for this week. Waivers are due coming in this week. Let me see. I'll quickly try to see who I think is going to be like a start of the week or something like that. Just going over this kind of quickly. Let's see. Let's get into some topics of the NFL. All right. Let me see. Yeah, all right, this is good. The Steelers game, that kind of showed me that maybe the Steelers are in deep trouble. It's just week one, and people might overreact to that, but, they're getting up there in age, and I know they had a lot of turnovers, and they'll still probably make the playoffs, but maybe it's the end of the dynasty, And I know there's going to be a lot of Steelers fans out there thinking, I'm crazy, but their offensive line is kind of whack, let's face it, and Big Ben is the most mobile of quarterbacks. It's hard to bring down, but it's going to be a big problem for him, you know what I mean? And I think also this week proved that, Peyton Manning is the most important player, probably besides Troy Polamalu, on a team overall out of any player in the NFL. Kerry Collins stepped in. Obviously, he didn't have a great game, but it's not really his fault. Their defense is undersized. Their offensive line isn't great. They don't really have a running game, which is, masked by how great Peyton Manning is. And those great wide receivers that he turned into last year, Blair White, Austin Collie, are they really that great, or is it Peyton Manning that makes them that great? It's a question that you got to ask yourself. Another question you got to wonder is Cam Newton for real? I had a lot of people ask me this week what I thought about that, and he looked really good, but maybe Arizona's defense is just going to be like the Texans last year, where you just start any quarterback against them, wink, wink, and that's how I feel about that. Cam Newton probably is going to be for real, but his biggest problem is his accuracy, which you can't really teach. That's going to have to come with time. I think he'll have his ups and downs, but it was an impressive start. He's fast. He has the speed of Mike Vick, and he's as big as a linebacker, so he has fantasy potential, so I like him as a fantasy player. I think he's going to be really good. Let me see what else. Last thing of the day is Ocho Cinco. That was kind of embarrassing the way that he played the other day. The way that he played was absolutely terrible. The guy throws for 511 yards and you don't even get a catch. Come on, man. That's like maybe, 2 catches? It was a joke. Actually, the game's on right now. My brother's watching it. Sick. NFL replay. All right, no doubt, yo. So that pretty much concludes my predictions and anything like that. We broke the news, and I'm going to come with you each week. Hopefully I'll have something funny to write. I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to say that, Binder, you look like Andy Dalton. He is your long-lost brother. And that's all I have to say about that. Keys to victory this week, as we wrap this up, will be my brother's team. I think it'll come down to the fact who does better, Pierre Thomas or Mark Ingram. That's an important thing for that game. Nicky's Mets versus Matt Peach. I think that game will come down to Matt Peach's wide receivers. Do they perform? That'll be important. I think Tim Hightower is an important start there also, so keep an eye on that. Who will win the surprise game of the week? Will it be, Fulcher or Binder? And I'm not really sure what that'll come down to. I just know that it'll be a pretty close game between two teams that really need a win. No one wants to start off 0-2, even though Fulcher's not 0-2, my bad. It'll be big for him to start off 2-0. No one will really see that coming. Also, in another divisional game, Grandis versus Bungay. I think that this is a huge game also. Bungay would like to start off 2-0, be first in division. Give a big middle finger to all his critics out there. Grandis, if he can start off 2-0 without Peyton Manning and Arian Foster at full strength, that could be really an amazing start. And that would solidify him as probably the best team in the league, no matter what. And it's interesting to see how over the season, how all these trades play out throughout the year. Speaking of which, we have Scott Island and Musco. So it's going to be interesting to see if Musco could survive having Sam Bradford and Sanchez as quarterback doing the plug-in play as he goes along all season long. And, is my hate warranted? Is the Musco Empire really crumbling before our eyes, as a lot of people in the league are saying, Or is he saying what it is? He's just letting everybody breathe for the first week, and he's going to come back and take it by storm. Only time will tell. And Scott looks pretty good after that trade. Will his running backs perform to his expectation? Only time will tell, as I said. And last but not least, we have Jimmy and Mark's game. And that will probably come down to the quarterback play as well, and which running backs will emerge, as it is a pretty evenly contested game, probably the most even out of all of the games this week, besides my brother and my brother and myself game. That's horrible English. So anyway, that concludes this episode. As always, can't we wait for Sunday? Can't even talk right now. Long day at work. Yep. Alright, guys. See you soon. As always, if you want to come through on Sunday, watch the games, Monday night, whatever, you know where to find me. Peace. Holla.